Hi, I'm Thomas Broadhead. I'm the editor of the Critical Performance Edition of the Ives Fourth Symphony. And in this video, we're going to talk about the bells part in the Fourth Symphony. The curious and most challenging aspect of the bells part in the symphony is found in Ives's description of it in his conductor's note. It is assumed that the low and high bells present a continuous scale and of like quality. He seems to be thinking of church bells, such as a carillon. Now, this is reproduced in the bells part along with the complete range requirement of the instrument. There's a problem, though, because standard symphonic bells are presumed to be glockenspiel and chimes, yet their ranges don't cover the range of the part. Glockenspiel has written notes running from G below middle C to C 2 octaves higher than that, but with each written note sounding 2 octaves higher. Orchestral chimes has written notes running from middle C to F an 11th higher than that, always sounding at pitch. So, the part for low bells, in particular, wouldn't be covered by these instruments, and the timbres are completely different from true church bells. Now, most performances of the Ives Fourth in the past made do with glockenspiel and chimes. I struggled with how to solve this long before the performance score was released in 2011. Most recordings before it sound like this one. But then I heard this recording by Andrew Litton and the Dallas Symphony. Finally, authentic bells. I reached out to Doug Howard, principal percussionist of the Dallas Symphony, to find out what they had used. He explained that it was a true carillon patch for the Kurzweil 2600. He sent me the patch and I passed it on to the publisher, and it was included in the materials sent to Lucerne for the premiere in 2012. In Lucerne, I was very excited about this. A team from Earcom had been assigned the programming of the electronic keyboard used for the bells and for the Scordatura quarter-tone piano. Side note, a realization of Scordatura quarter-tone piano for electronic keyboard rather than acoustic piano was used for that performance. Edfish was also excited about the electronic realization, for he explained that previously he'd had to rent an expensive set of bells from London for his performances of the Ives. But the treble didn't always project well. Let's compare the passage used above, first as heard in the Lucerne performance with the carillon patch, and then with the performance using glockenspiel. When the carillon patch is used, the lower part is what comes out, with the melody above it all but inaudible, but the melody is clearly heard when glockenspiel is used, albeit sounding 2 octaves higher than intended. But in some passages, the treble in the carillon patch does sound through. The Kurzweil patch wasn't without complications. It required rather precise instrument setup depending on which instrument you loaded it on. But this was moot. Schirmer, the publisher, thereafter replaced the Kurzweil patch with one for MainStage, a modern virtual MIDI controller used widely and with none of the setup barriers of the Kurzweil. Here's what the MainStage patch sounds like for the first example, here in isolation. Now, here's what it sounds like in context from a live recording in 2015. Again, though, the treble part in the bells doesn't really project. Andrew Litton had used the MainStage patch when he conducted the Ives Fourth with the BBC at the Barbican in 2014. When I attended his rehearsals with the BBC the following year, 2015, for their performance at the Proms, he explained he wasn't happy with the realization and was using glockenspiel for the treble parts for that performance. Provided what you can and cannot hear of the bells in the Seattle recording, this is understandable. But when I tracked down the BBC recording from 2014, though, the treble part is clear. Perhaps the location and aim of the speakers determines what's projected and what's not. So there seems to be a lot of variables here. The exact electronic realization the publisher supplies, the equipment available, and what it sounds like in the hall in question. I've explained the problem in the survival guide and reproduced it in the front of the bells part. Here, I'm describing the issue of sonic projection and suggesting that glockenspiel might be used for principal melodies in the symphony if the current electronic realization, whatever it happens to be now and into the future, doesn't work with the particular sound system and acoustics of the hall. So, what you do to realize the bells may be a matter of taste. To be authentic, the bells must have a continuous range and timbre, but the treble parts have got to project so that the recurring themes in the symphony played by them are always clear and audible.